Hello, Charita. Hello, Leslie. Hello, Dr. Ash. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Michael.
We will start in a few seconds' time, so let's do it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the next Power of Touch event in which we write on the back of language towards wasteless world. I will switch my camera off to save the data stream. And I hope you will enjoy the conversation and the word today, because the word today is raw, R-A-W. And I would like to start with you, Dr. Ash. When you hear a second ago that the term will be raw, what came first to your mind, please?
I understand the word is law, L-A-W.
R-R-A-W, R-A-W.
L-R-A-W.
R.
Raw, like raw
Raw,
meat.
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, raw. Well, that's a wonderful word because I think we all start off basically as being raw ourselves, in the sense that we are born absolutely in a natural state or unprocessed state by ourselves, as I could say. And basically, raw, to my mind, describes materials, emotions, or experiences that have not been altered, refined, or even filtered. So, obviously, the word suggests purity, directness, and authenticity also at the same time. Now, in a physical sense, when you're talking about Industry 5.0, for example, raw materials are substances that are taken directly from nature before they are manufactured or treated. For example, wood from a tree, before it is shaped into furniture, is raw wood. Similarly, raw food is uncooked and not prepared through heating. Now, in industries, as you and I know, raw materials such as cotton, iron ore, and crude oil are essential because they are the starting point of production. Without such raw resources, finished products would not exist. Now, let's come on to the emotional side or that emotional point of view. Raw can actually describe feelings that are fresh and intense. When someone experiences a loss or a deep disappointment, their emotions may feel raw. This means the feelings are strong, sensitive, and close to the surface. Now, raw, honestly, to my mind, also refers to speaking openly without hiding the truth, even if it feels uncomfortable. Now, let's come on to another point of view, and that would be on art itself. Art and creativity both go together. So, raw talent means natural ability that has not yet been trained or polished. Many artists begin with raw potential, which develops through practice and guidance. Raw expression in music, writing, or painting often carries deep passion and authenticity because it is less controlled and more spontaneous. Overall, the word raw, should I say, carries a deep sense of originality and directness. Whether describing materials, emotions, or talent, it represents the beginning stage, natural, powerful, and full of possibility. Now, here I'd like to bring in an example. I've traveled the world, as I've said, to very many countries, and I have been to Rome twice or thrice, and especially to the Vatican. And I would like to dwell on Michelangelo's art. And the, I wonder how many of you all have been to the Sistine Chapel and seen that beautiful artwork um, on the roof. You know, that is the power of touch that was given to life from the raw stage by God Almighty. So that I'll leave you with all that thinking in my mind. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ash. Leslie, I would like to ask you now, what came first to your mind when you hear the term raw?
So it is the first thing I think of. It is of all the first things that I think of. Is it one thing that I think of? Is that anything that comes to mind? So, when I play this game with you, I play it as the first thing that comes to mind, which is I was thinking raw sushi. However, if I follow Dr. Ash's lead, there are many other things that I could share. Many other things. For me, what came to mind second, other than raw sushi, right, was the raw emotional feelings, and that emotions are on a scale. Raw is a scale when it comes to emotions. When we first experience, let's just say, a death of a loved one or a breakup of a loved one, something that cuts us very deeply and makes us cry, we are at the pinnacle of those raw feelings. And then over time, and it's relative to each one of us, that state of rawness or pain lessens a little by bit, a little, a little, a little, a little bit. So I would say that raw emotions are relative to each person, depending on the experience, and they're not static. They don't stay at one level. They grow and they retract, just like the law of vibration, one of the seven universal laws. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Charito, I would like to ask you the same question. So, when you hear the term raw, what came first to your mind, please?
Oh, good evening, everyone. Well, when I heard the word raw, the first thing that comes to mind, actually, both Dr. Ash and Leslie already said a lot about raw. So I'll stick to a few things about raw. What for me, it's untouched. Like my sector, the raw lands, the lands are untouched, undeveloped. If we talk about carpentry or roof or everything, you have rough edges, like you are not fine tuning because still in its initial stage, that's raw. When nobody else touches it first, it's still on its own. I mean, its original component is there. It will no longer be raw when somebody touched it and made some, changes on it. It's also something which is when a person or a man would say something not nice, you're fresh, you just meet somebody, said something fresh, that's raw also for me. So anything that is untested, nothing, it is on its own, meaning even the feeling, it just started, or anything that is not touched by outside of it, by anybody, by nature, and it's raw for me. So aside from that, all those that Dr. Ash enumerated and Leslie also said about it. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Charito. You know, I would like to thank you for the first thought because it was interesting. You know that some of the terms, some of the words wake me up. And exactly this happened last night when I came with the term. And it didn't came alone. I usually see words in as a structures and which you can look at from all perspectives. And I look at the word raw and try to read it in opposite direction. Then I came to another term which Dr. Ash and all of us know very well and suffer from. So what do you think, Dr. Ash? Is there any connection between raw and war?
Oh, yes. That's exactly what I'm into right now. And you see, it all stems out of aggressive personalities. When President Trump was elected, I thought he was a man of peace. Now, you've got to weigh in as to what kind of a character any person that you meet has. Somehow, sometimes you cannot determine very deep personalities. And that's how the word raw that you mentioned and the word war, which is an opposite, also have come into my mind from that angle. That there was this man who I thought was a man of peace. And he actually formed a board of peace, and then he goes to war. So, it's in the mind. It's a mindset. It's an aggressive mindset. And you look at people's faces, sometimes you'll see aggressive personalities also. You can recognize the lines on their faces. You can see pleasant faces. You will know that somebody's got a pleasant personality and will be pleasant to talk to. Now, war is a state of armed conflict between nations, should I say, or between people, groups, communities. And it's obviously driven by political, economic, and territorial or ideological differences. Now, Trump came in with the idea of Greenland. So that is an aggressive design, you see. That's where I would connect it with a political um, sort of a connection as such. So throughout history, wars have shaped borders, governments, and societies. From ancient battles fought with swords and shields to modern conflicts involving advanced technology, war has remained a powerful and tragic force in human civilization, most unfortunately. Now, you'll be surprised to know that Pakistan today is at war. At war with who? You will remember 9/11, when the Twin Towers were bombed, should we say, with aeroplanes in New York. I've been to New York very often. I remember the Twin Towers, they're no longer there. And that started the ball rolling. They went for Afghanistan, then Iraq, then Libya, Syria, where it was in flames. We talk about migrants. What does war cause? Obviously, these major global conflicts, such as World War I and World War II, changed the course of history. These wars resulted in millions of deaths, widespread destruction, and significant political changes. They also led to the creation of international organizations like the United Nations, which today stands helpless, despite the fact that their aim is to promote peace and prevent any future conflicts. So, Pakistan today is still fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. And for the last 5 days, we've been bombing Kabul and Kandahar and I don't know, God knows where else. Here I talk about, you and I together thought about the Foundation for World Peace, Michael. And look at these people. I mean, the Taliban are again, like, well, they were there. They don't give women any rights. They don't allow children to study. And I'm sorry, I'll just prolong this slightly. But like, they do not allow women to go out unaccompanied without any male folk. They've got such funny kind of ideas about Islam. Islam, you read the translation of the Holy Quran, it is not a war like kind of a religion that people have made it into. So, like I've been talking about aggressive temperaments, we find that today war brings not only physical destruction but also emotional and psychological suffering. Families are separated, cities are destroyed, and generations grow up with a trauma. Soldiers often face life threatening situations. When I came back from the war front myself, I was in a trauma for 6 months after being bombed and shelled and strafed. Well, I left the army. Finally, I said, well, this is not part of my life. I don't want to kill myself. So, the question of cities being destroyed, we are looking at news channels on our TV screens, and here I hear the army giving briefings every evening about what all they've done. And I keep talking about calm and quiet and peace and, like, and I've been into meetings. I've got 2 think tanks that I'm heading. And whenever people talk about this, that, and the other, aggressive designs, I keep telling them that, you've got to calm your nerves after all. Get out of the look where technology is taking us all. We can all talk to each other thousands and thousands of miles apart, and yet we want to aggress. We have aggressive designs on others. Why? Why can't we have nice, peaceful, loving, emotional statements with smiles on our faces and greet each other nicely instead of being so horrendous, should I say? So I leave you with these words, words of peace, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ash. And thank you for the really deep insight into the war and raw. Leslie, I would like to ask you and probably Charito as well the same question, but I will start with you, Leslie. Do you remember the moment when, what was the raw, the most encouraging or most powerful raw which you met in your life? I'm sure it was not raw sushi. Something tells me it will be connected to your writing, but not sure. Your microphone is muted, Leslie. Still muted. And I'm not sure if it will work because before we saw your image for a few seconds. So I will ask with Charito the same question, and then we'll come back to you, Leslie. Charito, do you remember which raw, if I can say it so, has the biggest impact in your life?
That's a good question, Michael. If you say raw, then it should say it's my sector, my profession, because I'm into Rolands. Remember that. But you see, because we're talking about wars now, right? Raw and war. The same 3 letters, different meanings. This is how I understood about war and raw. This is something that comes out of a raw emotion. raw feeling. It's an emotion of a man of self love. Since birth, when he's getting older, that raw emotions, which is himself alone, raw self love, self propagation, the self esteem puts into making it robust and making it pride. That's why when one grows older, if that raw emotions are intact all throughout, your emotions of self and propagating yourself. You don't want to fail because you love yourself. You want to rule the world because you love yourself. I want to be somebody up there or anywhere. So why is there a war? When, for me, it is how I look at it. When people who have raw emotions of self-love, they will do anything to make that self grow over and above anybody else. So any threat to that, they go to war. Not war in the physical sense with weapons and all that. They fight in words, in deeds, in the boardroom, and everywhere else. War is not only the violent ones. War could be everywhere. You have a war with your wives, your husbands, and with anybody, with your neighbors. And why is that? Because the raw emotion that you have since birth is stuck out in your body, in your heart, and in your soul. So when we grow up loving ourselves so much, there is no, shall I say, allowance for others' emotions to come in. I can see that there's a power play here. If one wants to be known to the world that is somebody really, he can do so many things, and then he will use it something like that the other does this to make the world. I don't know if that's true. Who am I to say that? But I think both sides, and even the other side of the war, they also have raw emotions in them. They grow up believing in their religion. They hold on to it. They hold on to it. They don't want any other to stamp their feet on that. So each one, because of that self love, there's no more place for dialogue, no more place for allowances between us to adjust with each other. So that's why when raw emotions such as that, evolve into a greater purpose for oneself, it becomes war. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Charito. And I hope, Leslie, you will be able to speak now. You can try. Yes.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
same question for you. Which raw, if I can say it so, make the biggest impact in your life?
And I really, so I want to look at the reverse, which is war, um, particularly because I live in the United States and we've just declared war without any reason that anybody can figure out. But what I will say about this is that there is always war and there is always peace. It's occurring simultaneously in different parts of the world. This is one of the universal laws, the law of polarity. There is always peace, growing, evolving, and disintegrating. And there is always war, growing and disintegrating. And we don't have to know why it happens this way because we have the evidence right in front of us. Now, based on what Dr. Ash was saying, it made me think of something I just read or heard, or that sounded like it had some teeth to it. Was that people who follow someone like the president of our country, we now have the lowest IQ, the lowest intelligence of people follow this kind of a leader. And that's why we have such a division in our country. It's all based on what Charito was talking about was fear. We don't get those fears really until we're about 7 But you're right, Chirito. Those fears rule. And every time you experience a fearful thing that's been in your life, you bring it back into reality and it makes you feel bad. Because with the memory comes the cellular vibration, which is low when it comes to war. So, what I share with people that I teach every week, it's about what you're looking for. It's obvious that war all around the world is in our faces, but it really takes something unique and special to intentionally and purposely look for the peace that is growing. The size of the event is meaningless. It's the vibration. So if we teach ourselves to look for the greatness in others, to look for the places where good things are happening. There was an election yesterday, and someone in our state who was a governor, who was of the opposing party, won the election. That is a step. The steps can be baby steps. That the size doesn't matter. Just know that both are occurring, and your life and the way you feel about the world is actually based on what you're focusing on. So this is what I tell everybody. Look for the good in others. Look for the small movements. Look at Industry 5.0. What are we focusing on? It's easy to focus on war because it's prevalent and it's new, right? For us here in the United States, certainly not for other arenas around the world. But look for the small things. Look up, watch for love, hand food to someone on the side of the road. It helps, and you and I feel better when we do this one small thing. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Uh, all of you delivered very strong message to everyone who will listen. And Leslie just put in one sentence two words, which I would like to ask Dr. Ash if there is any connection. And that was the word raw, and then it was the term leader. So, Dr. Ash, do you think there is a connection between these two words, raw and leader?
Absolutely, yes. You see, a leader is really a person who guides, inspires, and influences others towards a common goal. So, leadership is not only about holding a high position or giving orders, it's about responsibility, vision, and the ability to motivate people. I've done it all my life, in whether it was in the military, the corporate world, or as a professor or as a trainer, whatever. So a true leader earns respect through actions, not just words. Now, let's go back in history. World War II, Hitler. He killed 6 million Jews. Can you imagine 6 million Jews? The Holocaust? Now, what have the Israelis done? 72,000 Palestinians have been killed. So, what are these wars about? Who are the leaders? And you very rightly pointed out, Michael, that is there a connection? Of course, there's a connection. Yes, absolutely. It's the leaders who lead their countries into war. Netanyahu, he was supposed to be going to jail. He was convicted. Now, let's come on the other side. I agree with whatever Leslie has said. Trump, he was involved in the Epstein files. His name was just about to come out before he decided to go to war with Iran. So there's always a motive. behind what leaders do. Now, for example, in our country, the Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he led the people of the subcontinent with determination and vision, resulting in the creation of Pakistan. Similarly, Nelson Mandela became a global symbol of peace and equality by leading the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. So these leaders showed courage, patience, and a deep commitment to justice. So look at these people. Look at Hitler, for example. Look what he did. Something absolutely unimaginable. Now, look what Netanyahu is doing. Today, on the early in the morning, on television screens, I saw Lebanon being bombed. Or should I say missile, or whatever you might call it. There are these new Nostradamus predicted it. He predicted the Napoleonic wars. Then he talked about China. China is like a sleeping dog. Let it lie. When it awakes, it will rock the world. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I think his predictions were right, because he's even talked about 2026, World War III, with bees coming like fire out of the skies. What are the bees? The bees are these wretched drones, you know. So these are the bees. So Nostradamus predicted it all through astronomy. There's a connection definitely between a bad leader and a good leader. So that's a bit from my side. I'm sorry, but I'm very angry with the world as to the way it's going. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you very much, Dr. Escharito. You mentioned twice the term raw land as your generally field of business. Do you think it's named correctly? Because when I look around in my country, in the middle of Europe, to be honest, I see very little of the raw land, because almost everything was somehow processed. So do you think we should speak about the raw land?
Actually, Roland's, I would fit well in my country because we're a country of lands untouched for development. Uh, and we have two seasons that is very friendly to lands, Roland's. Unlike in Europe where you have the snow and all that, and you have four seasons. So, well, you can ask me something about it with regards to the Philippines, but I could not say anything about the others because. But this is what I would like to say: the Rolands in my country is depleting because more and more people, we make people here very fast. Our population is growing. That's why a lot are going out to earn. When they come back, they double the numbers in their family. We have 2, 4, 6 children. So, and our country is not getting bigger. It's only the number of population, and more and more subdivisions are being built. More and more mountains and untouched places are being developed for subdivisions, housing and commercial. More and more agricultural crops are displaced or transferred somewhere else. So uh, sort of it's going there where the balance will no longer be equal, the agricultural sector and the housing sector. But that's what I can say about my country, unless the government will do something about it. Although they have moratorium once in a while on some places not to develop Rolands which have agricultural crops like rice, the prime rice. So that's all I could say, Michael.
Thank you very much, Charito. When I listen to you, I'm just now asking myself whether we should aim back to the raw land, raw planet, which will be very different than the one which we are living on. Maybe it will be very similar to something what was here billions of years ago. But what I think, that if we go back to our own lives, which you described as well, to the moment of birth, to the moment of rawness of life, I think that we have the chance to move at least the fear away from us again, because all the so-called leaders, they don't lead. They don't lead by example. They lead by fear, which was mentioned by you. And Leslie, I would like to ask you something about Irada. Are the leaders of Irada doing the same mistake, leading by fear?
No, because the original inhabitants of Arada were spiritual beings exemplifying virtues, values, and love. And I've ceased writing any more about it. However, I will say that in the next episodes, of course, I have to put in um, challenges, right, to overcome. And maybe I would change my mind and say that yes, you have both on Irada, but I hadn't gone to that place. I was too busy writing the book about the good things. It was 25 years in developing how to create a story and a life that's based on virtues, values, and love, a place where we could escape to be raw, to be our authentic selves. Yet in reality, you see, that's all imagination. So I can remove, but there are even challenges there. So they're not as prevalent, they're not as raw. And it's the raw stories that get us right. Well, and it might have been raw love, but not sex. Kind of like you and Jane, I know that when love is new, it is raw also. You don't know the other person the way you know them now. And every day that you grow with another person, you're both growing in conscious awareness in your own right. So so that is what is and in store for the continuation if I decide to do that. I had a very difficult birth with the audio book, and I know we're out of time, so I'll hold that for another time. And I'm not sure I answered your question, but in any case, I got what was on my mind out of my mind, and thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Leslie. You did. And you are right, the last minute just started, and I would like to thank you. Because all of us, we reach the raw state of human in our discussions. And let me wish you have a nice time free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and be the role model and leader of raw human humanity. Thanks a lot and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, and
Michael.
stay safe,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Dr.
God bless
Ash,
you all.
Leslie.
Take care.